My next guest on the I Wish a Virgin Media podcast is Lauren Andrews. Lauren is a manufacturing team lead for cell culture large-scale biologic manufacturing based in Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine in Ringaskiddy. Outside of work, she is the Campus Ireland WeSTEM 2D Youth Pillar Lead. Lauren, your career is so inspiring. Can you share what originally sparked your interest in STEM?
Of course. So it's actually really interesting. When I was in school, I just loved learning. It might sound really nerdy now, but I just loved the experience of like finding out something new and seeing kind of like different pathways to get around different obstacles that we have in our lives. So naturally, I gravitated towards the sciences. So I did chemistry and physics for my leaving cert. But at the same time, although I loved learning something new, the biggest thing was like learning something new, but in like the bigger picture and how that fits into the world. So naturally, languages went hand in hand with that.
Yes.
So I also studied German and French. So these kind of pathways, two very different, but now I can see how much they marry into each other. Because when I was in school, when I had these subjects, I was like, wow, I have so many options. It's amazing. Because I was really academic and I was getting good results in science, a lot of my teachers were telling me that I was going to be a doctor. Because I was really interested into the science behind it, the healthcare side. And they were like, well, you have the aptitude, let's go for medicine. So all I thought that the only pathway I had was medicine. And I was like, med, this is incredible. And unfortunately, I didn't get medicine first time round. And because I thought it was the only pathway that I had and the only one that made sense that would actually give me that satisfaction from something that I'm good at, I was like, okay, I'm going to repeat my leaving cert. I'm so close. Let's do it again.
Oh my
Lo
God.
and behold, didn't get medicine the second time. And it was when I was in university, I was like, you know what? I'll do science because science is something that gave me interested in medicine the first bit. So maybe I'll do graduate medicine afterwards.
Okay.
And it was only when I was actually, say, my 7 years from secondary school and into university where I was like, wow, this is actually really interesting and I can actually do something with this. But it's still at the same time, I was thinking, I'm still going to do graduate energy medicine.
Yes.
But it was when I was in my second year, Johnson & Johnson launched the WeSTEM 2D program in Ireland.
Okay.
And a part of this, there's a university pillar section of it. And I was really, really fortunate because of my interest in STEM and kind of like the involvement that I had. I received a scholarship from Johnson & Johnson for WeSTEM 2D.
Wow, well done.
It was incredible because not only did I have, say, the benefits of having a scholarship, but I was also given a mentor. So when I was in my second year of university, I had this mentor and she just uncovered an entire new world for me. And she was the first person who asked me why I wanted to study medicine, as opposed to telling me I wanted to study medicine.
Okay.
And it was that mentoring that really made a huge impact on what I actually saw the rest of my life to be, because it was someone who was able to actually give me guidance and kind of like show you what you could do with STEM, as opposed to, yeah, it's interesting, but this is what you can actually do with it. And to be honest, for me, it all just kind of like skyrocketed from there.
Oh, I love that. And it just goes to prove, I think, that everything happens for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. Like I've met some of my best friends from being involved with WeSTEM 2D because, say, when I got my scholarship, we also then set up University College Cork's first WeSTEM society at the same time.
Oh, fantastic.
So it was such a nice opportunity to meet other girls who were also studying STEM, because when you're going into university, don't get me wrong, I think that we're getting a lot better for more and more girls going into these kind of areas. But at the same time, it's quite daunting for anyone when you're like after just coming out of school and then you're in a completely different space. So it's kind of like an environment for us to meet like-minded women and kind of like be with each other and kind of like really explore what makes us tick. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met some of my best friends who are actually with me today at I Wish as well.
Oh, I love that. And that's what I Wish is all about, showing those girls the careers that you can do within STEM, which is so exciting. At Johnson & Johnson, Lauren, you're working at the cutting edge of science and innovation. What is one exciting project or achievement you've been part of and that you think maybe could inspire the next generation?
Oh, and I was actually thinking about this for the past kind of like year when I was reflecting back on everything that we've done. And it's absolutely incredible to see the changes that are happening out of Cork. So if you look at Cork alone in our massive global picture, Our Cork site is actually a lighthouse site, not only for sustainability, that everything we're doing to kind of like really give back to the environment that we are kind of launched into, but also the cutting edge of medicine. And we're really looked at from afar as kind of like the mark that we all want to hit, and looking at this like incredible technologies that are coming through. Like we're seeing being able to use AI coming into pharmaceuticals. We're seeing robots. We're seeing being able to produce life-saving medicines at 15,000 litre scale.
Wow.
And it's incredible for, say, the likes of myself, that I'm currently a manufacturing team lead. So I work in, say, that large-scale manufacturing. And kind of like for someone like me who didn't even know the STEM was an opportunity to walk through, say, the halls and see these bioreactors almost the size of the building, and knowing that in these vessels it's cancer treatments for someone who mightn't have any other choice, that will really make an impact on their lives. Or kind of looking at all the new products that are coming through the supply chain to say like, wow, a company like us is really going to make a difference in someone's life. But I definitely will say something that's really exciting as well is kind of looking at how the company is growing culturally and diversively. So it's not just, say, what we do to support the patient, but it's also what we do to support the people that we work with. And it's all about that kind of like development and looking at different learning opportunities, and kind of like looking at, okay, how can we be best in class, but also best for our people, which is absolutely incredible. And it really gives you a sense of loving where you work, as cheesy as it sounds. I know I don't want to preface that.
I love that.
But no, it definitely is absolutely incredible, especially looking at, say, technologies that support the people, not just the people that support the technology.
Lauren, we do a survey at iWish every year, as you know, and our iWish 2024 survey revealed that role models are incredibly important to the girls. Did you have a role model, or is there someone that sticks out in your mind who helped motivate you towards a STEM career?
No, absolutely. Like, I think my granda was always such a huge advocate of kind of like opportunity and not taking anything for granted. And I suppose that's something that I was always like, oh, that's a nice thing. Until when I was in my second year of university, when I received my scholarship, and I had that mentor who really became a role model for me, because I never saw STEM as an opportunity. And all of a sudden I had this woman who was just amazing in her field, just absolutely incredible, and really willing to kind of like share what she'd learned with me. That then when I got to this point now in my career, I'm like, you know what? I want to be that person for someone else, because she showed me paths that I didn't even know existed, that I wanted to make sure that other people also had that. So I think that mentor was so important. And I'm kind of thinking back now that if I had like a mentor or a role model when I was, say, 10 years younger, how different I would have been able to kind of like accelerate certain things, or even know pathways a lot sooner than what I do now. I don't take back anything that's ever happened along the way, but I just know how much of a difference having a role model is for you, because it's someone who can kind of like show you the path without following exactly their path, but kind of like show you the way and kind of like give you those opportunities. So I think the mentor that I received honestly nearly changed the trajectory of my life after that.
I love that, and I have no doubt, Lauren, that you are indeed a mentor or a role model to many young girls in your job and listening to us here today. So thank you so much, Lauren Andrews from Johnson & Johnson. It was an absolute pleasure to sit down with you.
Oh, so lovely. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. My next guest on the iWish Virgin Media podcast is Claire Dunne. Claire is a distinguished athlete who is uniquely qualified for both the summer, London 2012, and the winter, Vancouver 2010 Olympic Games, making her the first female athlete from Ireland to achieve this feat. After briefly playing with the Irish Sevens rugby team, she went on to compete for Ireland in tag rugby for a decade, participating in 3 World Cups and winning 2 silver medals with the Irish women's master team, the most recent of which was earned just 7 months after giving birth to her son. Professionally, Claire has spent most of her career at Deloitte, where she has been supported in her sporting endeavours. She has held various roles at the firm, most notably building and leading the social impact agenda over a 10-year period. Claire, it's an absolute pleasure to have you sitting down with me today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. Lovely to be here.
Not at all. If you wouldn't mind taking us back to the beginning, what was young Claire like? Did you always dream of becoming an Olympian, or was that something that came later in your journey?
For me, I knew from a very young age that I loved sport. I knew that I was fast.
Yes.
I was, like out in the street, like racing against everyone, beating the boys, which,
Love
got
it.
lots of pleasure from doing so.
Yeah.
They didn't like me too much for that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in primary school, I think I was in first class. And I beat all of the girls in school at the sports day, like right up to sixth
Love
class.
it.
So I definitely, I knew from that young age that that I had something, I guess,
Special.
special. Yeah.
Yes.
And I loved it, which was kind of more important, really. You have to enjoy sport or something, that you're going to give so much time to.
Yeah.
And I was just really driven and focused from a young age. And I joined my athletics club when I was kind of 11 or 12. Done Drumsite Dublin, and it was a great club to be part of.
Olympic athletes are known for their intense focus and dedication. How did your mindset as an athlete help you in other areas of your life with your studies and your career?
Yeah, it definitely transitioned across to my career once I kind of found what I was really passionate about. That work ethic was definitely something that transferred across, and that I was able to put into my work. Time management definitely is something you learn as an athlete. And how you balance everything from a young age, your studies and family and friends time and all the training and so on. So time management, you learn it without realizing, I suppose. So that definitely has been helpful in my career as well. And I suppose that focus and determination definitely. Once you kind of set yourself a goal,
and once you see it on the Den,
yes, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You have to commit.
I don't know if I'll be announcing any other things to the world, but definitely determination. Yeah,
I love
once
that.
you know what you want to do.
If teenage Claire could give one piece of advice to young athletes, I suppose, about balancing sports and school, what would you say?
I think it's important to have a bit of balance of everything in life. You don't want to be too focused on one particular thing. And my parents, like many, I suppose, I was so into sport. I was probably a little bit too much into sport from a young age. And they always chimed on about the importance of education, which is obvious, I suppose. And with sport, I suppose, unfortunately, like anything could change at a moment. With an injury, and you can't pursue that dream any longer. So I think having a balance of both is really important. And not necessarily sport. If you have other hobbies and interests, just having different interests is a better balance for a more well-rounded person, I guess. So.
Yeah, and a more well-rounded lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're not putting everything in one.
Yeah.
Switching gears from athletics to a corporate career at Deloitte is a fascinating leap. How did you navigate that transition, and how did your experience as an athlete prepare you for the world of STEM and business?
Yeah, it was definitely a tough transition, making that decision to stop doing sport, certainly at an elite level. Because I was still quite young, I was still able to play sport. But I knew I didn't want to compete at the high level of sport anymore.
Okay.
I was lucky that, I suppose, in my early career, professional career, I was in Deloitte and I was still competing at the high level, and they gave me the time out to go pursue my dreams, which is incredible. Kind of unheard of maybe back then, I think it's a bit more common nowadays. But they were definitely...
facilitating and
they did facilitate it, so it was fantastic to be able to do that. But it was still, even though I had a job to come back to, it was still a big transition. Because it's such an identity as an athlete. And to go kind of to a day job, to a desk job, it's a bit mundane, I suppose. But, it took a bit of time, if I'm being honest. On the sports side of things, I did find that very challenging, not to be doing my normal routine of training with my club mates and so on. So I did find another sport because I needed something. I couldn't just be idle. And I did play, sevens rugby for a little while, but it was quite full on. It was nearly full time sort of training, and I was, had my role and job in Deloitte, and they'd give me so much time off. I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to focus on my career now. And took a bit of a step back. And then probably had a good balance then going forward. I played tag rugby at a social level and a bit of a high standard too.
Yes.
But a bit more of a healthy balance, I suppose, between career and sport.
Okay.
And enjoying both.
Claire, thank you so much for sitting down with me and taking the time. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Lovely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Great.
My next guest on the I Wish Virgin Media podcast is Mark Langtry, also known as Mark the Science Guy. Mark is a theoretical physicist, former professional footballer, TV presenter, and the head of sports and science at Explorium Ireland's National Science Centre. An accomplished broadcaster and educational content creator, Mark collaborates with leading international organisations and brands to design and deliver innovative STEM content. Mark, you are such a fun and energetic science communicator, but we are curious. What sparked your love for science as a kid? Were you always the science guy?
No, and I have to say, I didn't really specifically call it science. Like if I was a kid, I wouldn't have said I'm really into science. I was generally just a curious kid. Like I think all young people are innately curious. That's why if someone ever thinks science is not for them, every one of us are curious, and that's what science is about. It's about being curious and finding out how things work, investigating it, and figuring out how to learn new information and then use that information to help people. So I think we're all naturally curious and interested in science. I think it was only really as I kind of moved up in my early teens, I was like, oh, there's like you can study this and it's called science. And again, my interests were much broader than specifically, say, maths or physics. Like I was interested in loads of things. So I think, again, I'm still driven by curiosity. I specifically do love physics, sports. I studied physics in university.
Yes.
I'm fascinated with the weather. So again, the physics of weather. I did a master's in meteorology, tornadoes, hurricanes. I'm all about that stuff. Again, it's all science. So I just found that science kind of fed my curiosity of how things work. And I think we all have that in us. Whether you want to become a scientist or just figure out what's going on, science is really useful. I think that's great as well.
And from experimenting in the classroom to becoming a TikTok star, what's been your craziest or funniest moment on your journey so far?
Oh, wow. So I try to attack science education or STEM education from all angles. So I have the TV show as well and love doing TV. That's for the smallies. And then do lots of stage shows, kind of interactive in-person stage shows. The energy is always wonderful in them. Or the online world as well and creating content. So they all have like, they're kind of more interesting parts of doing it. Like TV is amazing. There's a huge team all working together trying to achieve the same goal. The online shows are great for reaching huge audiences, really getting the message out there, which is super powerful. And then the stage shows, you can feeling that energy and the feedback is wonderful. So there's so many kind of different avenues. I've tried doing shows, the physics of breakdancing, the science of sport, kind of blending science with passions and interests and showing that science doesn't just belong in a classroom with someone with a lab coat. That's not kind of the old image of science. Science is everywhere and it's behind things you enjoy doing too. So ask someone, what are your passions? What are your hobbies? Like what type of things do you do for fun? There's a science to that. And when you learn about the science, you can get better at that thing. So a moment that kind of really clicked for me was when, like a lot of young people, I was interested in sports and I wanted to see how far I could push myself as a footballer, just to see how far I could go. But I went to UCD to study physics, math and physics. But in UCD, I started working with the sports science department. So groups of people, scientists, technologists, engineers, mathematicians, whose job it was to make me a better athlete.
I love it.
Wow, I didn't know that was a job scientists did. And I really directly found out the more science I listened and applied, the better athlete I became. So I felt like science is like a superpower. It gives you information you can use to get better at whatever it is you're interested in.
I love that.
I found so cool.
It is so cool. You've also been heavily involved in sports. How did your experiences as an athlete shape your perspective on problem solving and teamwork? And that's both in science and in life in general.
Absolutely. So when I'm working at Explorium, big interactive science centre, and I'm looking for new people to bring onto the team, one of the first things I look at is if they've played team sports. Sports teaches you so much about life in so many different ways. Successes, failures, mainly dealing with failures, and then pushing yourself and knowing kind of how to push yourself beyond your limits has so many lessons that you can apply for life. And I would say that's what I've done in my scientific career. So the sports and science career kind of naturally, their timelines naturally swap. I became a professional at 18, but only started studying for a degree in physics at 18 as well. So kind of the opposite ends of the sport.
Yeah.
But I found the lessons I learned from sport, applying them to whatever it was you're interested in. I applied them to science and the science world. I found the skills were so transferable, and I'd learned them without even knowing it from a really young age. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in any career to get involved in sports. One, keeps you physically and mentally fit, but it teaches you life lessons you can transfer and apply to whatever it is that your dream ends up becoming. Huge.
For the teenage girls listening, many of whom are curious about STEM, what's your advice for making science fun and staying confident in a field where they might not always see people like themselves?
So I always say that science or STEM is a superpower. And using science and technology is going to help you in your life, whether you become a scientist or not. It's great if someone wants to grow up and work in the STEM field, or if they have different dreams or passions, follow them as well. Follow what's kind of most enjoyable to you and what you're most passionate about. But you won't get away from the fact that whatever job you're doing, even just living in the world today, you will increasingly use more science and tech as the years go on. So knowing what's going on and how you can use that tech to help you and science is going to help you achieve your dreams faster. So it's almost like a superpower. It just gives you the tools you need to get to where you want to go. And obviously I love inspiring people to pursue a career in STEM because it's my own personal passion as well. But lots of us have got different dreams. And you've seen even people today who've got more than one dream. And I always say that's fine too.
Yeah.
I remember as a young person, people always said, sports, science, you have to pick one.
Yeah.
And I always thought, why do you have to pick one? It
Yes.
didn't feel natural or normal to me to pick one. And I thought, well, maybe picking one is fine for someone else, but this is who I feel I am.
Yeah.
And whether it works out or not, I'm going to pursue this. So that's always a number one thing that I say to young people is find something that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, and pursue that. But pursue that being disciplined with hard work, which you can see from all the amazing speakers today who have also diverse backgrounds. Phil Healy's working as a software developer and an Olympian.
Yes, we chatted to her earlier today. She's
incredibly inspiring. So you don't need to just pick one thing. Find out what excites you and then go after that as if your life depends on it.
Mark, I absolutely love your passion. It is beaming out of you and it's transpiring here to me. So I hope you guys are picking up on it as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and talk to you, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much as well. It's been a pleasure.